So Richard Perry, who was one of Ringo Starr's main producers in the 1970s, passed away at Christmas Eve. So today's podcast, we're going to talk about Richard's help with Ringo's solo career, especially in the early 1970s, but talk about why he decided to go on his own. Now, shortly before Paul McCartney announced his exit from the Beatles in April 1970, he and Ringo had a falling out due to Paul's refusal to cede the release date of his solo album to allow for Starr's debut, Sentimental Journey into Beatles' Let It Be. Now, Starr's album, composed of renditions of pre-rock standards that included musical arrangements by Quincy Jones, Maurice Gibb, George Martin, and McCartney, peaked at number 7 in the UK and number 22 in the US. He followed the Sentimental Journey with the country-inspired Boku of Blues, engineered by Scotty Moore of Elvis fame and featured renowned Nashville session musician Pete Drake. Despite good reviews, the album was a commercial failure. He subsequently combined his musical activities with developing a career as a film actor. Now, Starr played drums on Lennon's John Lennon Plastic Ono Band in 1970, Ono's Yoko Ono Plastic Ono Band in 1970, and on Harrison's albums All Things Must Pass, Living in the Material World, and Dark Horse. In 1971, Starr participated in the concert for Bangladesh, organized by George, and William co-wrote the hit single It Don't Come Easy, which reached number 4 in both the US and the UK. The following year, he released his most successful UK hit, Back Off Boogaloo, again produced and co-written by George, which peaked at number 2, US number 9. Having become friends with English seeker Mark Bolan, Starr made his directorial debut with the 1972 T-Rex documentary, Born to Boogie. Now, when Richard Perry came in 73 and 74, Starr had 2 number 1 hits in the States. Photograph, a UK number 8 hit co-written with Harrison, and You're 16, an old standard written by the Sherman Brothers. Starr's third million-selling single in the US, You're 16, was released in the UK in February 74, where it peaked at number 4. Both tracks appeared on Starr's debut album Ringo, produced by Perry and featured further contributions from George, as well as a song each from Lennon and McCartney. A commercial and critical success, the LP also included Oh My, which was a US number 5. The album reached number 7 in the UK and number 2 in the States. Author Peter Doggett describes Ringo as a template for Starr's solo career, saying that, as a musician first rather than a songwriter, he would rely on his friends and his charm, and if both were untapped, then the results were usually appealing. Now, Goodnight Vienna, followed in 74, was also successful, reaching number 8 in the States and number 30 in the UK. Featuring contributions by Lennon, Elton John, and Harry Nilsson, the album included a cover, suggested by Lennon, of the Platters' 1954 hit, Only You and You Alone, which peaked at number 6 in the US and number 28 in the UK, and Hoyt Axton's No No Song, which was a US number 3 and Starr's 7th consecutive top 10 hit. The Elton John written Snookeroo failed to chart in the UK, however. Now, in mid-November 74, a music video for the song and promotional film for the album was filmed on a rooftop of Capitol Records building in LA, designed to resemble a stack of discs. Lennon provided a voiceover as Starr's spacecraft landed on the building, and Starr boarded it before taking off over the city. Starr, Nilsson, and Keith Moon were among the cast, along with a 40-foot robot named Gort placed in the building. During this period, Starr became romantically involved with Lindsay DePaul. He played tambourine on a song she wrote and produced for Vera Lynn, Don't You Remember When? And he inspired another DePaul song, If I Don't Get You, the Next One Will, which he described as being about revenge after he missed a dinner appointment with her because he was asleep in the office. Now, Starr founded the record label Ringo Records in 75. The company signed 11 artists and released 15 singles and 5 albums between 75 and 78, including works by David Henschel, Graham Bonet, and Rob Nokas. The commercial impact of Starr's own career diminished over the same period. However, although he continued to record and remain a familiar celebrity presence. Speaking in 2001, he attributed his downward turn to his not taking enough interest in music, saying of himself and friends such as Nilsson and Keith Moon, "We weren't musicians dabbling in drugs and alcohol. Now we were junkies dabbling in music." Starr, Nilsson, and Moon were members of a drinking club, the Hollywood Vampires. Now, from the late 60s and the early 80s, Starr and the designer Robert Cruikshank ran a furniture and interior design company, which was very popular at the time. Now, in November 76, he appeared as a guest at the band's farewell concert, featured in the 78 Martin Scorsese documentary, The Last Waltz. Also in 76, Starr issued Ringo's Roller Grove, the first release of his new contract with Atlantic for the North American market, and Polydor for all other territories. The album was produced by Arthur Martin and featured compositions by Lennon, McCartney, and Harrison. Starr promoted the release heavily, yet wrote a groove, and his accompanying singles failed to chart in the States. In America, the LP produced 2 minor hits, A Dose of Rock and Roll and a cover of Hey Baby, and achieved moderate sales, receiving a chart position of 28. His disappointing performance inspired Atlantic to revamp Starr's formula. The result was a blend of disco and the 70s pop, Ringo the Fort. The album failed to chart in the UK and peaked at number 162 in the US. In 1978, the Starr released Bad Boy, which reached number 129 in the States and again failed to place on the UK albums chart. In April 1979, Starr became seriously ill with intestinal problems relating to his childhood bout of peritonitis and was taken to Princess George Grace Hospital in Monte Carlo. He almost died, and during operation on 28th of April, several feet of intestine had to be removed. 3 weeks later, he played with McCartney and Harrison at Eric Clapton's wedding. On November 28, unfortunately, a fire destroyed his Hollywood home and much of the Beatles' memorabilia. Now, he started dating Barbara Bach, but a bad car crash in Surrey, England, pretty well set him straight. Now, the 1970s was a period of transition for Ringo and for all the Beatles, because a lot of people were still thinking they were going to get back together. Of course, John Lennon's unfortunate situation where fell by an assassin's bullet again stopped all of that. But Ringo, I think basically he kept close with Harrison and McCartney and John, and I think if John would have obviously lived into 81, they would have got back together. Now, following Lennon's murder in December 80, Harrison modified the lyrics of a song he had originally written for Starr all those years ago as a tribute to their former bandmate. Released as a Harrison single in 81, the track, which included Starr's drum part and overdub backing vocals by McCartney, peaked at number 2 in the charts and number 13 in the UK. Now, later that year, he released Stop and Smell the Roses, featuring songs produced by Nielsen, McCartney, Harrison, Ronnie Wood, and Stephen Stills. The album's lead single, the Harrison-composed Rack My Brain, reached number 38 in U.S. charts, but failed to chart in the UK, including the lead single off the album, which Stop and Smell the Roses. Lennon offered a pair of songs for inclusion on the album, Nobody Told Me and Life Begins at 40, but following his death, Starr did not feel comfortable recording them. Soon after the murder, Starr and his girlfriend Barbara Bach flew to New York City to be with Lennon's widow, Yoko Ono. Now, from there, his projects were beset with problems. After completing Old Wave in 82 with producer Joe Walsh, he was unable to find a record company willing to release the album in the UK or US. And in 87, he abandoned sessions for a country album in Memphis after the producer Chris Chips Morgan and him didn't get along. He eventually became a voiceover artist, and his solo career pretty well dried up. So, ladies and gentlemen, a very interesting career in rock and roll, where Ringo was the number one leftover Beatle in the early 1970s, and all the songs and videos are there on YouTube for everybody to listen to. So that's a little update on Richard Perry's connection to Ringo Starr, which revised his career. If you like what we're doing here with a Ringo Starr podcast, let us know with a like, comment, subscribe, or share.